Hey guys, Kevin Ellis Jr. here with the Apex Racing Academy with this tutorial at Road Atlanta on the Porsche Cup car. So just to start off guys, down and towards turn 1 here, obviously off to the left hand side we've got all of the boards, but unfortunately they're basically useless. We can break a fair bit later than the 100 board here, so as you're coming into here you're essentially looking at this patch of grass here. Now obviously it's a little bit earlier than that, but you can probably judge it as you're coming in here. It's well after the 100, but not quite at the patch of grass. Down into 4th, and keep it nice and wide on the entry just to help open up the exit, because you don't want to come out on the exit like a way up against the curb on the outside. So we're trailing the brake the full way in. Just watch for the inside front lockups as well. It's likely to happen, just as it's pretty bumpy entry. And then as you come into here, right as you get to this apex curb, watch the throttle. We start to pick it up here just as we get to the apex. Now you can see that we're not going to track all the way out to this curb on the outside here. There's no reason to be out here, because then you need to try and pull it back to the right, then get it back to the left. So it's better to stay just a little bit off it. And I kind of use this black mark on the track here. I just kind of follow this up the hill, give a bit of a reference. Then as we turn in here, just a little bit of brake initially, just to get it slowed, get some weight over the nose, and then make sure we can get our left-hand wheels up onto this curb. This will help open up turn 3 and carry some good speed down the hill. So we're on the brakes essentially the full way through here. A little bit of throttle braking as well, doesn't hurt. You can see just a little dab of throttle ever so slightly. And then as we come in towards turn 3, really easy place to get an off track. As you come up over the hill, you start turning in, and the curb just sort of appears. Very inviting to send it over the top. So just be careful of that. You can see here, that's how much roughly we're taking off it on the inside there. That's pretty close to the off track. And again, right before we actually get to the curb, you can see we're going to pick the throttle up here. So we haven't actually gotten there yet, but we're going to pick some throttle up, move the weight to the back of the car, and get some drive off all at the same time. That's the reason we pick up the throttle early, is just to move the weight backwards so it doesn't pull going landing, and it will give us some good drive off as well, as it's quite a key section coming up here. So aggressive over the inside curb, and then on landing, slowly feeding the power in to end up over this curb on the inside as we turn in here. Nice and aggressive on the steering as well. You can see keeping off throttle in it just to keep the diff turning the car. And then as you come off of here, you don't really want to be any further over than this black line. You can see here, roughly the middle of the car over the black line. Gives us enough time to pull it back to the left to then open up the right. So yeah, you can see just through here, up over the curb on the inside, lifting a little bit just to keep the rotation. And then you drift out to this black line, bring it back to the left, up into 5th, and then bring it down here. Just watch the throttle. You don't want to be full throttle back here, because it's going to understeer you, end up off in the grass. So as you basically come past the start of this curb, you should be near enough flat out, and then right as you get to this lighter concrete patch, we're full throttle. You can take a nice chunk off the grass on the inside, or you can take even more than this if you want, just to help straighten the corner. However, if you do catch it slightly wrong, it will spit the car off, so just be aware of that. But here you can see, up over the grass on the inside, try and get it back to the left. There's a massive bump right here at the start of this curb for turn 5 that we want to try and avoid if we can. You can see we just sort of skirt around the outside of it. We just sort of clip it here. You can see the car sort of oscillating on the way in, but nice and aggressive. Drop off the big curb on the outside, bring it in, just brush the inside curb here. You don't want to take a huge chunk off the inside. You want to get back to throttle nice and early. And on the exit here, it's really, really bumpy. You don't want to be away out here. There's a couple of really big bumps that will spit you into the gravel, and then that wall sticks out right at the end. So you want to make sure that you can either take this line here, which is a little bit smoother, and the car won't be as bad, or you can just straddle this, so your right hand wheels are where my left hand wheels are, essentially. This is a really, really smooth acceleration zone compared to being away out here. However, you do need to sacrifice your mid-corner speed here. So where I'm getting back to throttle, you might need to trail just a little bit more, and then start getting back to throttle around here. You see how aggressive we are here? You know, your throttle will probably be somewhere around here if you're trying to take that shallower exit. So we're up over the curb on the outside, flat out, nice and aggressive over the bumps, and towards turn 6. So we're looking at these white lines that go across the track here. You see we're already beginning to brake it before we get there, but from inside the car, as you're coming up on them, essentially you want to make sure you're at threshold by the time you get to them. You can see we start applying brake, then as we come over the top, we're at threshold braking right as we get to that white line. See, front wheels are on it, and we're at threshold. And as soon as we come over the top of that, starting to lift some brake out of it. Now through here you've got a choice. If you're a quicker guy, and you're going to be carrying enough speed to make it worth it, you can just keep it in fourth. However, third gear will get you some rotation, and then you can short shift to fourth on the exit here just to keep the wheels from spinning. So you see we're trailing the whole way in, and you can get up over the inside curb a little bit more aggressive than this even if you want to, and just be nice and aggressive on the throttle, and then drift it right out to the curb on the outside. You want to brake on this curb. You see we're braking just as we come up to it, and then right out to the grass, down into second gear. If you're finding like a rear lock up into here, you're probably braking too much. So try braking a little bit earlier so that by the time you get to this point where you transition off it, you've got less brake. You can see the amount of brake I've got in here is pretty consistent. I'm turning off the curb and then I drop a load of brake out of it just to avoid that. And we're down into second and picking up throttle just before we get to this inside curb here. You can see starting to pick up the throttle before we even get there. And something I like to do personally is just shift into third, so that by the time you land off this curb you can be nice and aggressive on the power. Second has slightly better drive, but it's a little bit harder to hit consistently. So I just prefer to use third personally. It's a little bit nicer up over this inside curb as well. If you're having issues with it, you can drive around the outside of the curb as well. You can just avoid it and try and get a better run off that way. So down and towards the final chicane. Again, slight issue where the 200 is way too early and the 100 is a bit too late. So essentially as we're coming down here, from inside the car and on my screen personally, there's like some changes in tarmac color, like right around here. It's really hard to point out, especially on the OBS preview window I'm looking at the minute. It's quite hard to kind of show you guys, but it's right around here. You see where these sort of lines are, like kind of train track lines. Where these ones sort of start is where I'm braking for this. So it's pretty difficult spot. But right around here you can see I'm getting to the brake, and because the car's compressing down, you can use a hell of a lot of brake. You can actually get to near enough 100% if you need to. So you can see how aggressive we are on the brake. We're right up at the very tip of how much travel we've actually got left. Down into second, and then start dropping the brake out of it quite quickly because it will start to lock in inside front as you come into here. Now you want to cut just a little bit off this inside grass here. Any more than that you will risk getting an off track, so just be aware of that. But you want to kind of cut the left and get back to power just as you hit it. You don't want to get back to power before it because then you're going to drift way out here, so we want to get back to throttle just a little bit later here. Just be patient on getting back to throttle, and then as you get back to power, try and keep it as far to the left as possible to then open up the right. So you can see we're just getting to full throttle here in between. However, it's not key to get full throttle, but you do need to carry some kind of speed into this right-hander. Don't sacrifice the exit of the left to get a better right. You do need to carry some kind of speed out the left and some speed in between. So drive it nice and hard on the inside. You see there's a big bump right around here that you want to hit. It will actually tighten the car up slightly, so when you get this much throttle, you slam into the bump on the inside and you just gradually just increase. It's still going to want to get loose here as you come up over the crest, so just be nice and patient on the throttle. Up into fourth, you need to short shift into fifth. And then as you come down the hill, you see the curbs on the outside start to turn in away from them in fifth gear, and you want to keep it full throttle on the way in. This will keep the car rotating. If you lift, it will start to understeer, so you have to keep the throttle in it until you hit the inside curb and then you lift. It feels a little bit counterintuitive to start, but it does start to feel quite good once you get it down. So as you come into here, you're full throttle the whole way, not lifting, and right as you're about to slam into the inside curb, give it just a little bit of a lift just to help it deal with the bump, and just keep the speed down a little bit so that as you land, back to full throttle and across the line. So with that, guys, that is a lap of Road Atlanta. Hopefully you guys found this informative. As always, any kind of questions you can ask me in the group coaching session on a Tuesday night, or you can ask in the Apex Racing Academy Discord, and we'll be sure to get back to you there. But apart from that, guys, the best of luck in any races you're doing this week, and we'll catch you next week.